question is, obviously it's such a huge, large-scale issue. What do you foresee being the most efficient forms of getting the word out going forward?
Friends and family are by far the hardest people to speak to veganism about, and I wish I could tell you that I had some magical code or some key that would unlock the compassion in our parents' hearts, but sometimes it doesn't work as easy as that. And I think for me, when I went vegan, I thought I'd be like, Mom, Dad, I've gone vegan, and they'd be like, oh my God, Edward, tell me all the reasons why you've gone vegan. I'm so interested to find out, and that did not happen. So I was vegan for a little while, and it was about a year actually. It was kind of about the same time I started my activism. I was like, right. First things first, I'm going to tell my mum, I'm going to tell my dad why I'm vegan. Because they knew I was vegan, but I never explored it. And they're both divorced and remarried, so I sent them the same email, but separately. And it was just basically, look, Mum, look, Dad, I know I've been vegan for a while, but I want to tell you why. Here's the reason: ethical, environmental, health. Love Edward. And my mum emailed me back and she said I was going to die from synthetic proteins, which I don't even know what they are to this day. And my dad never replied to me. Never replied to me. And I was angry. I was pissed. I was like, who are these? How dare they? That is so disrespectful. And so I was like, I went through this phase of being really resentful to my parents, and then I had to think, well, why is this the case? And I thought, well, the thing is, right, our parents raised us. I'm speaking from my own interpretation, from my own family situation. I can't speak for everyone else's. But for me, my family raised me to try and be the best I could be. They wanted to give me good opportunities in life. They wanted to be a good person, whatever that looks like, and have good morals. And so they raised me to be in the best way they thought. And the thing is, when I went vegan, I turned around to them, and even though I didn't say this, what I was implying to them is I'm saying, the way you raised me at home for 18 years and the way of life you gave me after I left home is wrong and immoral. And you made me do things that go against who I am. And to them, that's kind of like you're criticizing me as a parent and who I am as a person. And I think that any parent who goes vegan when their child does is some of the most beautiful people on the planet, because it requires such humbleness and humility to go, you know what, not only have I lived wrong all my life, but at the same time I've raised you in a way that isn't the best, and I'm going to admit that and I'm going to make that change. I think that's incredible. But I see why a lot of parents don't do that, because they're afraid of maybe recognizing that failing. It's not a failing because they're not doing it on purpose. Recognize that they may have done something not as well as, you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's not that they're bad people, it's just that they haven't consciously realized they maybe did a bad thing, like most of us did throughout our life. So that helped ease that. And over time what I found is that they become a little bit more open-minded to it. So I did an interview on the BBC in January this year, and it was like a live debate with a dairy farmer. And afterwards I was like, you know what, I'm gonna tell my mum and dad about this, because they didn't know about Earthling Ed, they didn't know about what I did or anything like that. So I texted my dad and I was like, just so you know, I was on a live debate this morning on BBC with a dairy farmer, and my dad was like, I know, we've been big fans of Earthling Ed for a while now. And I was like, so creepy, right? Thanks for the heads up. But and he said, you were very persuasive. And I thought, oh, persuasive, right? And so it's gone from him not replying to me, not wanting to address anything, to him saying that I'm very persuasive. And that took a long time. And the point is, sometimes with friends and family, we have to persevere and be patient. And as you said before, we have this natural barrier up where we don't want to go too far, because at the end of the day, we want them to still like us, and we don't want to put any barriers in. Unfortunately, veganism has put huge divides between me and my family, to the point where I don't really see them anymore. I definitely don't go home and spend time with them anymore. I bought my stepdad forks over knives 2.5 years ago. He is obese, he has type 2 diabetes, and he had gallstones. And the gallstones are deposits of cholesterol. The doctor who removed his gallstones said that they were the worst case of gallstones he's ever seen in his professional career. And I thought, wow, maybe that'll change something. No. 2.5 years, and he still hasn't watched Forks Over Knives, a 19-minute documentary that isn't about animals, doesn't even mention the vegan word once, but could add years of quality and quantity to his life, and he won't do it because he knows it advocates for plant-based living. Right? So friends and family is so hard to get through to, but what I will say is just persevere and be patient. For a lot of us, it's not going to happen overnight. So I think little and often is a good way of doing it. So if they won't watch documentaries, try and show them 10-minute videos, try and show them 12-minute YouTube videos. If they're interested in their health, maybe like heart disease runs in the family or whatever, try and send them information that relates to something that they're going to care about, and hopefully that'll make them think about it. Sometimes you can appeal to their emotional side. You can say, look, this isn't about me, this isn't about veganism. I want to have as much time on this planet with you as possible. And a vegan diet is proven to add years of quality and quantity to your life, so do it for me, because I want to spend years with you in the future. And I don't want you to die from a preventable disease and play on that whole "I'm a child and I care about you deeply" card, which is obviously true as well. It's not like a guilt thing, it's the honest truth. And I think that can sometimes help. But again, it's that thing of, if people don't want to learn, you can't make them. You know, we can't sit people down, you know, pick their eyes open and show graphic footage of them until they agree to change. Like, it doesn't work. I mean, not that I've ever tried it, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. So I think just perseverance, but concentrate on people who want to hear the message. You had a second part to your question, is that right?
Oh yeah, I was just curious, just in your time being exposed to all of this, what you view as the most efficient way to go forward and make this a global change?
I think, for me, the animal enterprises, the industries that exploit animals, are huge and vast and multifaceted. So we require more than just one approach to change the systems, because it's a multi-headed beast and we need to slay all the heads of the beast before the beast dies. So we need to approach it from all angles. We have plant-based doctors, we have grassroots activists, we've got environmental scientists, we need people from every realm. Now what I think we should do as grassroots activists, which the majority of us in this room are or you know, should be, is be versatile. So social media is wonderful, friends and family and immediate circles is great, but also get there on the street and talk to people. What we don't want to do is end up in an echo chamber. We're just sharing the same stuff to our friends on Facebook. So going out there on the streets and joining things like Cube of Truth, which is an event which, if you're interested in, please go speak to Tim and Denise at the back about. There's also things like saving individuals. But basically, there's loads of different forms of activism that go out there on the street and get to people outside of that echo chamber. So we need to do as many different things as possible. And anyone who says my activism is the best or this is the only form of activism is arrogant and should be taken down a step, right? But I think social media is wonderful, but I also think conversation, the power of talking to people one-to-one in person is invaluable. So that's what I suggest.
Thanks so much.
Of course, thank you for your questions. It's your partner, it's your mum or your dad. Just try every angle. I think sometimes, for me personally, I'm like, trying to drill home the ethics, and some people just aren't going to connect with that straight away, but a lot of people care about themselves, obviously, which is important. So people care about the health. So do try all these different angles and try all these different approaches before you do give up, but just don't get too bogged down, because I think what happens is we get bogged down on one person, we can just kind of be like, I'm not doing a very good job, I'm letting the animals down, I'm letting the environment down, I'm not good for this movement, I'm just going to stay quiet, I just want to be complacent because I don't want to do anything wrong. And that's the wrong thing to do. What we have to do is get out there, exactly, look bigger, go larger than just in our immediate circles, and focus on people that want to hear the message. Because when we talk to people who want to listen, we feel, hang on, I can do this. Like, I'm making a difference. I feel good. I'm helping. I'm bringing a positive change. It makes you feel invigorated, inspired, and then you can go and talk to more and more people. And over time, you start to really believe in the abilities that we all have to bring about the change that we all have to bring about. So try your hardest for that person. But if it's not working, then don't get too hung up on it, because it's not good for our morale, right? So don't get too hung up on it and move on to people that want to hear it. That's why activism groups are amazing. That's why social media is wonderful, because we're getting through to people that want to hear that message. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Thank you for your question.
Do phytoestrogens somehow affect us adversely?
So I think the quick answer to that is I don't believe soy is dangerous in any way. Okay, and I think that probably is the consensus of the majority of the medical establishment. A lot of what we hear is misinformation or disinformation that's put out there because the dairy industry is scared. So soy does have phytoestrogens in it, and phytoestrogens are plant-based estrogens, so they resemble estrogen. And so some of the disinformation out there is that if you drink a lot of soy milk, you're going to get too much estrogen, and that's bad for a man or bad for a child. But the reality is phytoestrogens are very, very weak estrogens, and they have little to no activity in the body that is consistent with estrogen activity. So I don't think it's a problem. Does that answer your question?
Estrogens, and I think it took 16 servings of soy a day before it started to have an impact on our hormonal level. And what's really interesting as has been mentioned already, is that this dairy industry misinformation, and they point at phytoestrogen, but dairy has estrogen in it, so they're saying don't drink soy, it's got plant estrogen, drink dairy that has mammalian estrogen, right? So it's just absurd. I love soy, so, I
actually have one more comment too, which is about the hypocrisy of it. It's our the current state of the meats and dairy and other things that we eat. We get exposed to a lot of hormones through those because the hormones that are given to the animals. And in fact, I would propose that is actually a stronger promoting influence than the phytoestrogens. And we've seen it in a change in our children. our girls in the United States are undergoing menarche, which is the age of first period, at a much earlier age than they used to, and this is attributed to the hormones that they're exposed to through meats.
The eggs, then we just like take them for ourselves or whatever. I don't know how to like respond to that basically. So the ethical aspects of backyard eggs, and then like the health, because obviously eggs are not healthy. So if you just want to touch on that for me.
Sure. Okay. So I don't know. So I thought it was my phone at first. I was like, what's going on? So there's a few ways of looking at this. Let's look at it first of all. Let's look at where do the hens come from. If you're buying hens, you're still fueling the hatchery industry, so you're still fueling the maceration of male chicks. Say you don't buy them and say you rescue them. So, often people have hens that have been rescued from caged farms, and they think this is a good thing. It's a great thing to rescue hens from any system of farming. So you can think, well, we've rescued the hens, we're giving them a nice life, so they make eggs, let's just take their eggs, right? And you can think, well, what's the issue there? You touched on a couple of things, so let's look kind of biological kind of issues, which is, so egg-laying hens have been selectively bred to produce up to 300 eggs per year, maybe one a day. Naturally in the wild, the red guinea fowl, I think, is where the hens come from. They would lay 2 clutches of maybe 12 to 15 eggs a year. So they've been modified to produce excessive numbers of eggs. This takes a huge toll on the body, but the calcium, well, the shell is made from calcium. So it takes a huge amount of calcium to produce the eggs, which is why osteoporosis is one of the leading problems in the egg industry, because the completely depletes the calcium, and the bone mass is just shot. And most chickens in the egg laying industry, I can't remember the statistic off the top of my head, I think it's 50%, so maybe not most, but half will suffer a broken bone at some point in their life. So that's osteoporosis. So when you shatter the egg and you feed it back to the chickens, they replace those lost nutrients, which is vital for the chicken. Also, I can't properly confirm the validity of this statement. However, I have been told many times by people that have rescued hens that if you feed the eggs back, if you take the eggs, it encourages them to lay more, because chickens naturally want to produce clutches. So if you let them lay a few before cracking them, it encourages them to lay less and less and less, which is ideal for their quality and quantity of life. I can't confirm whether that's true for all chickens though. Fundamentally, what this boils down to is the issue of exploitation and how we look at these animals. So let's say you feed the eggs back, they don't want to eat the eggs, they're not interested, you've done it many, many times over, and now the eggs are just going wrong. The issue that I see here is that most people, the only reason they have hens as backyard hens is for their eggs. So unless you're vegan, most people don't have hens for pets, they have them for their eggs alone. I had a friend in university who had chickens. He loved his backyard chickens like a pet. One of them died, and he cried his eyes out, he was so sad. But every day, he ate chicken. Every day. We used to eat chicken together. We go to Nando's, which is a big chain in England, and eat chicken. And when those chickens died, they were killed by a fox. He cried his eyes out. Anyway, not that that's relevant, but the point is, a lot of people that have backyard chickens do so for their eggs alone. Even though to develop a connection, they wouldn't have them without their eggs. So I think, well, hang on, if we had dogs, and the only reason we had a dog was to take their milk, that wouldn't be right? We wouldn't think that was acceptable. But somehow it's acceptable to only have chickens for their eggs. So when we take that egg, we're saying, your life is to serve me. Your existence is because you provide something for me. If you didn't provide for me, I wouldn't love you. So it's that issue of exploitation and use. And that's kind of why I don't think it's ethical, because we have to stop commodifying and viewing animals as property or as machines for our use. And even though it can seem so simple, the mentality of taking those eggs is the mentality of you are here to serve me, and that's what we need to eradicate. There is no servitude from animals to humans, at least there shouldn't be. And I think that we have to eradicate that on every level. The industrial, commercial, factory farming level, but even the subtle level, because it's that subtle discrimination, that subtle prejudice that can eventually transform into being something significant. And I think if we eradicate the egg industry, what can happen is people start taking backyard eggs, people start selling the backyard eggs. All of a sudden there's a demand for eggs, so what happens is we have issues of farming again. If we want to eradicate farming, we have to eradicate the demand on every level so it can't seep back into society. That's how I feel about it.
And I think from my standpoint, there would still be no justification for eating the eggs. The egg is a meat product. It still has the bad things in it that would make me tell you not to eat it in the first place. The choline in the egg is, when it's consumed, is a part of that process. If you may remember where I talked about TMAO, that then leads to atherosclerosis or hardening of the arteries, but also the cholesterol in the egg, which is a very high source of dietary cholesterol, is contributing to atherosclerosis in that way as well.
What's your opinion on GMOs? Do we need to eat all organic or safe eating conventional?
That's a good question and a tough question, okay? GMOs, does everybody know what they are? Genetically modified organisms. We have reached a point in our technology where we can modify the genes and change the expression on certain things. For example, we can make corn that is now more resistant to disease, and we can make corn that's resistant to herbicides, for example. Now you can spray that corn with herbicides and kill a lot of bugs and things, but you're not harming the corn. You might think from a first perspective that GMOs are good because we're creating hardier strains of corn that then you now can produce more corn. But I think, personally, I think the jury is still out on GMOs, and I support the idea of not using GMOs, and it's for this reason is that we're kind of playing God, and where we're starting to mess with the genes of an organism and its expression, and we're so early in this process that we don't know the true long-term consequences of what we're doing. For example, you might say that now we created a corn strain that's resistant to herbicide. Well, what if that corn strain then that resistance to herbicide is now adopted by some other plant that's nearby it, and now suddenly you've got more plants that are resistant to herbicides in the spread. Or an example might be where we eat that corn, and now there's bacteria in our gut that can be modified or can uptake that gene, and suddenly that gene is harbored by bacteria in our gut, and we don't know what that might do to us in the future. I just think that there's too many questions out there that are unanswered, and it'd be very hard to answer these questions. I mean, GMOs are actually very well studied. They're probably the most well-studied organisms out there because we've got scientists who are creating them. But the reality is they just know enough to create them, but there's no way they can predict what's going to happen a few years down the road. So in my opinion, no to GMOs.
I just wanted to add something to that. I feel like I may be playing devil's advocate a little bit because my mind's still split on this. Someone said this really, because I was like, I'm really against it. Someone said this really interesting thing to me. They said GMOs is kind of like a pen. So there are many things we can do with genetically modified organisms in the same way as many things we can do with a pen. One thing we can do with a pen is write Mein Kampf, which is obviously terrible. One thing we can do with GMOs is put them in the hands of Monsanto, which is obviously terrible. However, you can do many wonderful things with a pen. Likewise, genetically modified organisms have the potential to do many wonderful things. One of the things they can do is they can give communities across the world in arid conditions who can't grow anything, they can give them, say, plants or crops that can thrive in those conditions. Or in areas where there's drought, they can make drought-resistant plants and stuff like that. So it actually provides money to economies and communities who maybe need it. But there's also a long-term effect to that, which is what we don't know. Like, do the farmers get cancer from some of this stuff? What effect will it have on the environment? So there's a few ways of looking at it, and I think we have to. For me personally, I don't know, because GMOs mean so many different things and can involve so many different aspects that we can't. I think we should be careful to blanket terming it and thinking, oh, this is wrong, oh, this is bad. What Monsanto do is disgraceful, and they're one of the most evil corporations that exist. However, GMOs in the hands of the good guys, if you like, has the potential, because as we continue down this road of climate change, which is progressing, and even if we stopped all animal-based products now, we're still going to have issues to do with greenhouse gas emissions trapped in the environment and the results of what that's going to lead to in years to come. We're going to have more arid conditions, more deserted landscapes, less fertile lands because of topsoil erosion from animal agriculture. Fundamentally, we're going to have economical and also problems down the road that may only be able to be solved by GMO crops, but who knows? The future is so cloudy and shadowy. I just think it's good to maybe, I think from a health point of view, not good, but maybe from other points of view, there are maybe reasons to maybe have more faith in it. Who knows? Who knows? But I don't know if I believe that. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit. All right, thank you so much for your question. It's a great question.
I know that you'll go, my love, I think I'm yours. My dreams, like trees, I hope one day they'll grow, and I want to hold. So I wait, but you hate. You have so much to say. For you, I'm true. I have so much to do. Though you know that I'm yours, my love, I think I'm gone.